I want to turn to the latest on a big headline that had investors' attention earlier this morning and late last night, and that was the fact that we got some news out of the Trump administration. They were doing damage control over the past 24 hours, and we had President Trump tweeting that the China trade deal is fully intact. This came after White House trade advisor Peter Navarro. He said that the deal was, quote, over. And for more on this, I want to bring in Leland Miller. He's CEO of China Beige Book. And Leland, let's just start with what we heard from Navarro. I want to get your thoughts on that because Navarro then walked back his comments. But do you think that the trade deal, I guess, is doomed at this point?
I do. I think the obstacles stacked against it are enormous. That doesn't mean it's doomed yet, though. I mean, at the end of the day, there's only one person that matters here. It's the president. And if the president wants to continue to push, continues to believe there's going to be a strong economic recovery in the fall in the United States and globally, continues to believe he can get tit for this phase one deal, which is impossible. He's going to keep pushing for this. And I think even if the deal ends up failing, which I think quite likely, they could be pushing for another 3 months of corn purchases and wheat purchases and soy purchases. So enormous obstacles stacked against the deal. Everyone in D.C., everyone in the run-up to the 2020 election is going to be going after China. It's going to be very difficult to defend, but the president wants to stick with it now.
Hey, Leland, Rick Newman here. I wonder if you could explain what China wants. So they've been buying less, actually considerably less than they're supposed to be buying under the phase one trade deal. But a lot of that has, that's been amid the pandemic, so it's been hard to tell. And you've got mixed reporting out of China. Some people think China would actually like to see Trump reelected because they think they can push him around. But obviously, he's been very unfriendly to China. Mm-hmm. So another view is that they'd like to get rid of him. What does China actually want, do you think?
I think China just wants the Trump administration to leave them alone. And if a phase one deal will allow them to do that, that's what they were prepared to do. Now, this is before COVID. I think when you look at the phase one deal, you have to look at it as actually two deals. It wasn't 1 2-year deal. It was 2 1-year deals. The first deal was sort of obtainable. You could have a good faith effort to hit these extremely bold targets that would run up right to the election. And then the second year, it'd be up in the air. Is this going to be an aggressive U.S. China relationship? Things going to fall apart? Are we going to move towards some sort of phase 1B deal? But it's always been a very tough sell to get there. And now post COVID, these targets are not doable. Some targets they can still hit some agricultural targets, which is why the president hasn't left the deal yet. But by and large, the Chinese want to do just enough to keep the administration off their back. It's just not clear at all that's going to be possible, considering all the momentum and tensions in D.C. right now to go after China. It's going to be very hard for the president to stick with the deal.
So then, Leland, going off of that, if you're saying that some of these targets at this point are impossible to adhere to, it sounds like it can't work as it is right now. Do you think we'll get a revised deal? Or do you think it's more so the fact that U.S. and China just almost want to keep themselves, I guess, satisfied enough to keep with what's currently agreed to?
I don't think there's any room for a revised deal. If you look at where the two sides are, the president is focused almost entirely on purchases. And if the Chinese can't make those purchases, there's very little else that the White House is interested in getting in the short term. So you either do the purchases and make the president happy, or close to it, or else the deal's going to fail or get suspended in some sort of halfway sense. But look, there's not that much room. This was never a structural deal. This was never a deal that was going to hit the big issues in the U.S. China relationship. This was a deal that was going to run up to the election. It was going to ramp up commodity purchases, and it will either do that or it won't. And if it does not, which is the way it looks post-COVID, and fails quite badly in missing the targets, then again, the president's going to have a decision to make. Can he defend a deal that's failing in the midst of this, anti-China onslaught?
Hey, Leland, if you were advising Joe Biden, what is Trump's greatest weakness here? That he just could not fulfill on a campaign promise, or something different?
Well, look, there's plenty of tweets out there that he can capitalize on. Trump went out and tweeted that he was concerned about Chinese workers staying employed. And, there's other sensitivities there. But I think the biggest issue right now is Trump's myopic focus on trade and tariffs. And I think that the approach the Biden team will probably want to make is, look, there are a lot of issues that we disagree with China on. They're big structural issues. These have been totally ignored. And if anyway, if in any case, probably pushed down the road even more, simply because we've had this complete straight focus on nothing but trade. So I think the biggest weakness is that we have ignored serious areas of problems throughout the relationship that have nothing to do with trade, and that's given the Chinese some wiggle room to do some things.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.